If abortion rights are gay rights, lesbians wonder if gay men get it. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, Section 1, reads in part, quote, "No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." That phrase has been debated by legal experts for nearly the entire history of U.S. politics. One interpretation of that statement is the concept of substantive due process. That concept references the Ninth Amendment's suggestion that the innate rights of citizens expand beyond those written into the Constitution to allow courts to protect rights not directly outlined. This has been used to decide rights like freedom of contract and the right to privacy that are not specifically outlined. It is the opposition to the concept of substantive due process that was used in the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Other cases that were ruled on provide protections for minimum wages, access to contraception, interracial marriage, and same-sex marriage. Justice Clarence Thomas, Lord help us, has already signaled a desire by the Supreme Court to revisit the cases that grant these rights, putting marriages and even the legality of non-procreative sex at risk. While Roe's overturn as a 50-year settled right directly affects a woman's right to make health choices, the gay community, and specifically gay men, our brothers, may have been slow in understanding the intersection of the 14th Amendment affecting Roe Obergefell for marriage or sodomy in Lawrence v. Texas.
You know, the problem is that people don't appreciate that Roe v. Wade recognized what was called a right to privacy, and that's what Roe is based on. That right to privacy isn't expressly written in the Constitution. So that was the importance of that decision, because it said inherent in the 14th Amendment in protecting you is a right to privacy. That right to privacy was the same reason that in Lawrence versus Texas, two men having sex in their own bedroom in their own house were arrested for having sodomy. And that fortunately were smart enough to sue and overturn the sodomy law in Texas. But all that goes away if there's no right to privacy.
Right.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, is not written. It's in substantive law, which unfortunately is the United States Supreme Court. And so they can drop that right of privacy, which is what they did in Roe v. Wade and many, many other decisions.
Wow. And I think that, you know, gay men haven't necessarily made that connection. They see abortion, they don't think it affects them, but it does affect them because it's all about the right to privacy. So, you know, gay men can be our strong allies.
Yeah.
But they have to be willing to understand and see how, you know, women's rights are human rights. You know, women's rights affect men too, even gay men.
Of course.
But they can't see it.
So I would say that for me personally, I didn't really understand the intersectionality of this issue either, right? So I am older and I have 2 adult children. And after I had 2 children, I was done. I had the surgery so I wouldn't get pregnant again. That was my choice and I made that choice, right? Probably partially in part due to the right of privacy, right? Like I was able to make that decision to not have any more children. And so to me, I'm like, well, you know, I'm not going to need an abortion. And I could see how gay men are like, well, I won't need an abortion. And but I think too, like the other piece of it is just beyond the right of privacy, right? We talk about how our families, if they love us, shouldn't vote against us, right? With regard to gay marriage and everything else. And so I think that translates.
Completely.
Right. So, but I will say that I was ignorant, and maybe in the early days I might have reacted in a way that was not inclusive of gay men because, you know, maybe it's not their issue. But now that I've heard the story, and I thank you, Rosemary, for that, shining that light on the right of privacy, because I don't think I would have picked up on that right away.
Yeah, well, I think this is a learning curve for all of us, and I think that it takes great power to say that I am still learning, I am still evolving. I will say that I am surprised a bit, and I don't know why I'm so surprised, but I'm really surprised that the boys aren't there with us. It would break my heart when Roe versus Wade was overturned, and I would hear from close boys that are family to me. That has nothing to do with me, and I would be sitting right next to them,
Right.
and they would have no
How can you
clue.
say
Like
that?
no, but and it's just not one person, Cindy. This
I know,
happened
yeah, absolutely.
repeatedly, But I'm also learning too. I'm out there protesting. I'm out there, in Wynwood, in Miami, wherever I can, with a bullhorn screaming for women's rights and for reproductive rights. But I was saying women's rights. Then I had to check myself. Because there are non-binary folks, there are trans men that could also get pregnant.
Right.
So I had to school Faye Watt in that, and it was folks that can get pregnant,
Right.
So so I'm trying to cut the boys a little bit of slack because it's a learning curve. But it wasn't until Clarence Thomas said that they were like all of a sudden like, oh shit, they might come after us too.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, they don't
boys.
understand.
Come on. And just like you said, Lexi, if you love us, you should be there right next to us.
Right.
At every rally that I'm at, it's all women and like 4 boys.
Yeah.
And I constantly post, I'm going to go march. I want to see you boys with me.
Yeah.
Cricket.
So what's that quote around, they came for so-and-so and I was quiet
They
and
came for that,
right,
and then
and-
they came for me, and there was nobody left.
nobody left to speak up for me, right? And so the other thing I would say too is, hey, I kind of feel like you guys owe us, right? The lesbians were there for you during HIV and
Absolutely.
AIDS,
I was
and you
just
had
gonna
no
say that.
support
Yes, we
from the
were.
government or anybody else, and you were ostracized, and we took care of you,
Yep.
Right.
and we fought for you. So now it's time.
Yeah, they were your angels.
Your turn. Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
tell you what'll get their attention
Oh.
is the United States Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas already said, I'm going after this case, and this case. And the last one on the list is Lawrence v. Texas.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when that's overturned,
Yeah.
they're
That's
not
gonna
going to
be a
have a
problem.
legal right to have sex with
Right.
anybody,
Yeah. Yep.
with any kind of male. It's going to be gone. And he's got that on his list.
What does
of
Grindr
things
look
of
like
rights we're
after
gonna
that
lose.
There is no grinder after that.
Ooh.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a grinder, but then we would be going back in the
Into
closet.
the closet.
And
Yep.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But we're going backwards in a lot of scenarios right now,
Yes.
Cindy. So I'm not surprised there either.
I know.
I think when we're educating ourselves, like we have all just said around this table about this particular topic, and we can bring now what Rosemary said,
Right.
about the right to privacy, and then it's our responsibility to educate the men in our lives
Yeah.
and say, this is why this is important to us,
Yes.
and it has to be important to you because you have sisters
Yes.
and maybe daughters and nieces and friends.
And
And
you're
we-
next on the list.
And,
Right.
and then
Rosemary's
drop
like
the
forgetting.
gauntlet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, no.
Rosemary's like,
Rosemary's going for the juggler.
Yes. But she's true. For some
No,
of
right?
these boys, it might just be that. They might not give a crap
Right.
about us. And we've got to be okay with that,
Right.
you know? But once you mention to them, hey, you might be next. You might not be able to have sex in your own damn house.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
Don't
They're
come
all
crying to me.
Then maybe they'll be
Right,
out there fighting then.
exactly.
And it might be too late by then.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.